Ever wish your coding environment could shift into the perfect mode for whatever you're working on, whether it's debugging, exploring code, or just getting into deep focus? Well, a couple weeks ago, Cursor launched a feature called Cursor Mode, and I've been playing with it. And in this video, I'll break down what Cursor Mode is, show you some clever ways people are already using it, and walk you through a few of the custom mode I've set up for myself, so you can steal the ideas and make Cursor feel like your own personal dev assistant. All right, so let's get into it. When you open Cursor, you'll notice that there's three main modes that will appear. And I'm going to head over to the main page to show you what they are. So you'll see that there is a mode for agents, and then you have a mode for ask, and then a mode for manual. So these are the three modes that you'll see in the application. And they each serve a different purpose. For agent, this is when you have the agentic workflow where you can tell Cursor what to do and it's going to execute anything for you. Then you have the ask mode where you can ask Cursor different questions. And finally, you have the manual mode if you want to do some specific changes within a specific file. So now what happens when you actually have the ability to set your own Cursor mode? So this is where you get custom mode. And in custom mode, you get a lot of flexibility in terms of what model mode should use, key binding to trigger it, what kind of tools it should be using, tools like search, code base, web, grep, and so on, the ability to edit file or delete files, and the ability to run command, mostly from the terminal right now. You also have the ability to set auto-apply edits and auto-run and auto-fix error, and also add custom instruction. And so when you start using it, you're gonna get a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to configure your mode to work for you. And if you're have some really cool prompt engineering for a specific use case, it can actually become really, really powerful. So right now I'm going to show you some of my personal custom instructions that I use for debugging, and I've shared them on my site debugprompt.com. And so if you head over to debugprompt.com, click on modes, you'll see a list of all of the different mode that I'm using for my own need. So the name for this mode are not necessarily like the best, so I call them Flow Logic Debugger, UI Layout Inspector, Info Route Analyzer, and Conflict Flow Resolver. And what they cover are some of the most common issues that you may face when you are developing with AI, some of the common issues that happen. Sometimes you might write some instruction or prompt, but not give enough context to the AI. And so when the AI is generating something, it's doing that with a lack of context. So one of this mode over here, the info route analyzer, analyzes that it has all the information that it needs in order to implement the solution correctly or debug the correct things. It also analyzes whether it's tackling the symptom versus the root of the problem. Because one of the common issues that happen when you're building with AI is that instead of fixing the actual root of the problem, is focusing on the symptom. And it's like obsessively focusing on the symptom. It's not actually trying to fix the actual real problem that's happening behind the scene. So one thing that I've done in the past was writing purposely in my prompt to focus on the root of the problem rather than the symptom. And so when I designed this custom mode, I made sure that that was part of the role of that mode to actually only focus on the root of the issues rather than tackling symptom. And one common thing is that the more you have a lack of information, the more likely you are to end up in a situation where it's going to focus on the symptom rather than the root of the problem. So info root analyzes your entire application based on the prompt that you've submitted and try to figure out whether it has all the information that you need in order to do things. And if not, then you might notice that there's a problem where because of the lack of information, it might lead to symptom debugging rather than root issue debugging. So now if you expand that, you're going to see the different configurations. So what kind of model you're going to use, what kind of thinking. So sometimes you want to enable it or disable it. So in this context, you'll be using Cloud 3.7 Sonnet Max enable and with those specific tools. So for each of those modes on debug prompt, I actually show you exactly what you should use and what you should not use. And I provide some instruction on the right-hand side of the screen right here. So you can just copy this instruction right there and then add it into your code base. So I try to make it very simple. So this is really easy for you guys to notice what mode are enabled and which one are not enabled. This way you can literally just go over a cursor and copy those configurations for yourself inside of Cursor. And like I said, to trigger that, you just have to go in the text area in Cursor, click on this button right here, and then scroll down, click on custom mode, and you should be able to add your own custom mode. I found a couple of resources that are super helpful if you're new to writing custom mode. One of these resources is Agent Desk. That's the same guy that built the plugin called Browser. I think it's like the Browser Debugger MCP plugin that allow you to monitor what's going on in the network requests and all the console log of your browser and send that via MCP to your IDE environment. So in his site, if you head over to agentdesk.ai/prompt, you'll also notice that there are different modes. But his mode specifically focus on the instruction for creating those modes. So for example, you have architecture mode, and it has a specific prompt that you can run in order to trigger that mode. So you can either feed it to your prompt or add it as a custom mode inside of Cursor and select what kind of tools that you want to use. So the difference between that and debug prompt is that in debug prompt, I try to give you as many contexts, so what tool to use for specific mode, because I believe that based on the mode that you're using, the configuration that you need in order to achieve that are extremely important. Now, I found another tool that actually provide you the actual specific settings and features that are on and off. This tool is called playbooks.com, and you can actually find that in the Cursor website. So if you head over to docs.cursor.com and you go to the page where they talk about custom mode, at the bottom of this page, I've noticed that they've provided some resources. And right now, the resource that I found is playbooks.com, which is this resource right here. And in this page, you can actually see different mode that you can use for your own application. And they also come with a filter. So if you want to find ideal mode for 3.7 Sonnet, you can just click here and it'll filter it for you. And you'll be able to see the different modes. You can click view mode. And once you dive into it, it gives you a breakdown of the different things. So the icon that it uses, some of the mode, what is selected and what is not selected. And if you scroll to the bottom, you can actually just copy the mode right here and add it into your application as your new mode. So yeah, so these are like the 3 resources that I found. And I plan to add a filter if I end up adding more mode. But you'll notice that when you have Cursor mode, you cannot add an unlimited number of mode. It's going to get to a point where you've added all of the mode and you cannot add any more mode. So I believe it should be around like 6 mode maximum, and then you won't be able to add more mode than that, or even less, maybe 4 or 6. But keep in mind that you don't have unlimited mode, so be very specific about what kind of mode you use. And if you're going to use a debugging mode, start with one mode that fits your needs a lot better. I like Flow Logic Debugger because that focuses on chronological flow. So the chronological flow is what happened during the life cycle of your request from step by step. So oftentimes a lot of issues that happen when AI is building for you is because it's not implementing the right chronological flow. So you are telling it to do first do A, second do B, third do C, and sometimes it makes a mistake at the step B where you do something that you're not expecting. So some of the things that I like to do is to ask the AI to visually mark where in the chronological flow the issue is happening, specifically the issue that I'm explaining based on my expectation. And then you can point out with an emoji where this is happening. So when you're using the Flow Logic Debugger, his primarily focus is to use a chronological flow approach to identify error in the logic. And this is very powerful. I've solved a lot of really complicated issues just by using that when building with AI, by asking it to first break down the chronological flow and also to display exactly what he understands about my expectation as pseudocode, and to analyze whether the pseudocode of its expectation matches the chronological flow of my expectation, to see if there were any discrepancy between the two. So that's kind of how I use it. So I like to use all of these. And also, I've noticed that sometimes when you implement UI layout, you run into a lot of big issues that takes hours and hours to try to solve, and it's not solving it because the AI doesn't really understand what you're trying to do. So this is why I created the UI layout inspector. And this is another mode that you can use if you want to debug your AI UI specifically. So I personally use all of those modes, and I'm always relying to the agent mode for everything else that pertain to development, and using my Cursor rules to making sure that the agent is implementing the application as I want. So I personally don't really have a custom mode for developing yet, but I do believe that custom mode right now are extremely powerful for debugging. So I use them quite often. So yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, please make sure to like and subscribe and check one of those videos right here. And I see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.